5 sinister school lockdowns revealed. Haunted incidents that exposed unexplained terror in the quiet town of Maplewood. Darkness fell over Hillcrest High School as a fierce winter storm howled outside. But that chill was nothing compared to the terror gripping Sarah, a dedicated teacher who found herself still inside those ominous walls. The familiar sounds of teachers packing up faded away, replaced by an eerie silence that sent shivers down her spine. She gathered her papers at 5, ready to escape the oppressive atmosphere. But just then, the blare of emergency sirens ripped through the air like a knife. A lockdown due to an unspecified threat? Sarah chuckled nervously. Just a drill, right? Her flippant thoughts were silenced when muffled screams reverberated through the heavy doors. Panic struck her heart like a fist. As shadows loomed in the dimly lit hallways, Sarah gripped her phone tight, a lifeline against the terror creeping in. The lights flickered overhead, pulsing ominously as whispers echoed from dark corners, calling out to her like ghosts from an old nightmare. This wasn't just about an intruder. Something far worse was happening inside these walls. Old legends flooded her mind, tales told by her grandmother of restless spirits and dark secrets buried deep. The blizzard outside raged uncontrollably, its howling wind mirroring the chaos inside. As she navigated the abandoned hallways, Chloe, a distraught student, stumbled into her path, her eyes wide with terror. "Miss, something's wrong." "Sir?" "They're here," she gasped, glancing over her shoulder with fear that tightened Sarah's gut. Before she could respond, the air thickened with dread. The familiar warmth of school transformed into a nightmare. And it hit her. Mr. Blake, the trusted faculty member who always had her back, was now watching with an unsettling calmness that made her blood run cold. What was he hiding? Then there was Mrs. Williams, the elderly history teacher who clung to tales of their past with unyielding obsession. Could all these threats be connected? Were they part of something darker? Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As terror peaked, the lockdown ended abruptly, chaos erupting in a frantic rush. Sarah felt cornered, trapped within a world where authority figures lost trust, and hope was snuffed out like a candle. The winds battered the windows, shrieking warnings that mingled with Emily's story, a girl who vanished in a similar lockdown years ago, her name now hanging thick in the air. Just as the chilling realization washed over her, Sarah heard a soft voice, echoing from the shadows, calling her name. Her heart pounded like a drum. Breath came fast. An icy grip clutched her shoulder from behind. She spun around, ready to face the truth, but her world teetered on the precipice of unknown horrors lurking in the darkness. What had awakened in the school's heart? And was she about to become the next victim of a haunting past? The icy grip on Sarah's shoulder tightened even more. Panic surged through her veins as she whirled around, her heart hammering against her ribs. There, just inches away, stood Mr. Blake, his face twisted into a chilling smile. But it was his eyes, cold and devoid of warmth, that froze her in place. "Miss, we need to move now," he said, voice low and urgent yet laced with an unsettling calm. The shadows around them seemed to swirl, whispering secrets Sarah could not decipher. Instinct screamed at her to run, yet she couldn't tear her gaze away from him. "Where's Chloe?" she managed, her voice trembling. "She's safe for now. Just follow me." The way he said it felt wrong, the words clinging to the air like a thick fog rolling through the hallways. Time felt suspended as he turned, motioning for her to follow, and a sickly feeling twisted in her stomach. Was he protecting them or leading her to her doom? They moved through the flickering lights, the school's layout seeming to rearrange itself as they ventured deeper. The eerie stillness amplified every sound, the soft pad of their footsteps, the creak of aging lockers. Fingers of dread crawled up her spine with every step away from safety. "Why is this happening?" Sarah whispered, desperation lacing her tone. "What's really going on?" Mr. Blake stopped abruptly, turning to face her. Shadows danced across his face, deepening the lines of worry etched there. "It's not just the storm. They're here because of something buried. Something that wants to be set free." Before she could respond, a loud crash shattered through the silence, reverberating down the hallway like thunder. Glass shattered somewhere nearby, echoing off the walls. Sarah's breath hitched, fear coiling tighter around her heart. "Quick," Mr. Blake urged, grabbing her wrist tightly and pulling her into a nearby janitor's closet. The darkness enveloped them as the door creaked shut, blocking out the chaos beyond. They stood there shrouded in gloom, the air thick with the smell of stale cleaning supplies. "This is where it began," he murmured, eyes darting anxiously. "You need to understand that this school is built on a graveyard of secrets. Whatever was in the lockdown years ago has woken up, and it's hungry." Suddenly, the lights flickered violently, plunging them into darkness for a heartbeat before the emergency lights kicked on, casting a ghostly glow. Shadows twisted along the walls, mimicking the panic swirling in Sarah's mind. She gripped her phone tightly, the feeble light it offered barely cutting through the oppressive dark. "Listen," Mr. Blake's voice dropped to a whisper, barely audible over the distant shouts and cries echoing through the school. "You need to find the old gym. That's where they went, that's where the truth lies." "Who went?" Sarah's voice was barely a whisper. She could feel the hairs on the back of her neck stand up, the air around them thickening with dread. Before Mr. Blake could respond, the door rattled violently. A shadow loomed just outside, muffled voices merging into a cacophony of chaos. Sarah's heart raced as she realized they weren't alone. Whatever had come for her was creeping closer. And in that moment, she felt the weight of their shared panic pressing down like a coffin lid. "We need to get out of here," she gasped, eyes wide. But before either could make a move, the lights flickered again, plunging them into darkness once more. A chilling whisper floated through the room, wrapping around them like icy fingers. "You should never have come back." Something sinister was unfurling in Hillcrest High, and the truth was about to claw its way to the surface. What had been awakened? And would Sarah find the old gym before it was too late? The air crackled with tension as Sarah's heart pounded in her chest, each beat echoing like a countdown. The rattling at the door crescendoed, splintering her focus. She could feel Mr. Blake's hand trembling around her wrist, the warmth of his grip stark against the chill closing in. "Stay quiet," he hissed, voice a tight whisper. The shadows around them morphed into lurking shapes, their elongated shadows playing tricks on her mind. She peered into the darkness, straining to hear whatever was outside. The whispers grew louder, muddled voices merging into panic shouts that reverberated like a distant thunderclap. "Find them, don't let them escape." Each word seemed woven with a sinister intent, a dark force threading through the chaos. "What do they want?" Sarah whimpered, her voice quaking. "Shoo, just focus," Mr. Blake shot back, his senses seemingly heightened as he listened intently. The rattling stopped, replaced by an unsettling silence, a heavy pause that felt like a coiled snake ready to strike. Then, out of the silence, a low guttural sound emerged, sending chills racing up Sarah's spine. It was an inhuman growl, drenched in pain and hunger. The door trembled yet again, a tremendous force slamming into it, making her yelp. "We need to go. Now." With a fierce tug he swung the door open, and light flooded the small closet, illuminating a corridor steeped in shadows. Eyes wide with terror, Sarah hesitated, but Mr. Blake pulled her with him, stumbling into the hallway where dread echoed through every crack and crevice. They bolted away from the janitor's closet, the faint emergency lights casting ghostly beams around them. The hallways twisted as if the building itself were a twisting labyrinth alive with spirits. Shadows flitted at the edges of her vision, whispering her name. "Please," Sarah gasped, desperation filling her voice. "What if we can't find Chloe? What if Chloe will find her way to you?" "Trust me," he interrupted. "We just need to get to the old gym." But how could she trust him when fear dripped from every word, every frantic movement? They bounded past the classroom doors, each one an unmarked tomb that threatened to spill secrets of its own. Suddenly, the lights above flickered wildly, plunging them into darkness once more. A piercing scream sliced through the stillness, echoing off the walls. Sarah's heart raced as she spun around, heart hammering in her chest. Had someone been trapped inside one of those rooms? "Keep moving," Mr. Blake urged, his grip tightening. Panic surged through Sarah as she took a step forward, her feet feeling like lead as they raced down the hall. Sarah caught a glimpse of something, a flash of movement behind them. Whipping her head around, she saw a shadowy figure lurking just outside the reach of the emergency lights. It was tall and twisted, all angles and darkness. It watched her, unmoving, and she could feel its eyes piercing into her sanity. "Run! It's coming!" she cried, the words spilling from her trembling lips. They sprinted toward the stairs leading to the old gym, urgency clawing at her throat. Sarah's mind raced as they descended, the echoes of footsteps mingling with the shadowy figure's pursuit. It felt too close, too many dark memories flooding back. "Sarah, don't look back," Mr. Blake yelled, but the urgency in his voice was laced with terror. Just as they reached the gym door, a deafening crash rattled through the school. The lights flickered one last time before bursting into pitch blackness, plunging them into a suffocating void. And then they stopped. Sarah could feel Mr. Blake freeze next to her, and she knew deep down they were not alone. Something had followed them. Something dark and hungry had found its way into the depths of Hillcrest High. "Open the door," she gasped, panic surging through her veins as shadows danced around them. But the handle wouldn't budge. As the whisper returned, chilling her to the bone, she knew whatever was inside this school was waiting for its next victim, and she was running out of time. What waited for her beyond that door? The darkness wrapped around them, dense and suffocating, every breath punctuated by the oppressive weight of fear. A low rumble echoed through the gym, reverberating off the walls like a haunting chant, urging them to understand their grim fate. Every instinct screamed at Sarah to do something, anything, but her body betrayed her. Rooted in place, eyes wide with pure panic. Mr. Blake slammed his shoulder against the gym door, the wood groaning under the pressure. "Come on," he urged, desperation lacing his voice as he hammered at the handle, but it refused to yield. The whispers rose to a frantic crescendo, escaping the shadows in the corners, swirling like a storm of malevolence hungry for flesh. "Don't you dare give up. We need to find a way." Suddenly, a loud thump resonated from behind them, and Sarah nearly jumped into Mr. Blake's arms. A chill swept through her as she turned to see the source of the noise. Shadows flickered and wavered, the outline of the shadowy figure they had sensed in the hall emerging from the darkness. Its shape morphed, contorting into something grotesque, long limbs draped like tattered cloth, a featureless face highlighting an abyss of despair. "Stay back," Mr. Blake shouted, stepping protectively in front of Sarah. But the creature only tilted its head, curiosity glistening in its absence of eyes. The whispers escalated, the air thick with an echo of forgotten souls, rising and converging on the looming threat. Why is it here?" Sarah stammered, the words crawling off her tongue in a shuddering breath. "It collects," Mr. Blake grimaced as he steadied himself, staring at the apparition. "Feeds on fear, on despair. We can't let it take us." But as they backed away from the door, it suddenly creaked open, an eerie sliver of light streaming from the hallway behind them. Sarah's heart leapt. Freedom? Or was it a trap? "Go," Mr. Blake urged, not waiting for her response as he dashed toward the light. She followed, adrenaline surging through her limbs, but the shadows didn't recede. The creature hissed, a snake-like sound, flooding her mind with terror. She glanced back at the door just as it slammed shut away like a forbidden book, its cover promising nightmares yet to unfold. The gym's interior shifted. The walls seemed to close in, constricting her breath. "It's an illusion," Mr. Blake yelled, his voice breaking through her panic. "We need to reach the exit, the back door." More shadows cascaded into the gym, swarming from every direction like ants. Sarah felt the panic grip her throat, its fingers tightening until she could barely breathe. "What if we don't make it? Then we fight," he roared, eyes blazing with determination as he shoved a nearby bench toward the oncoming shadows, splintering it against the closest one. But it moved through the debris like water, the shadows coiling around it, unfazed. They were everywhere, masses converging with empty intentions, and she felt the deep gnawing realization settle in that they would not survive. With every exhale, the whispers became louder, clearer. "You are lost, you will never escape." The words coiled around her, squeezing her resolve until she could hardly think. "Sarah!" Mr. Blake's shout pulled her back to reality as he flicked through the gym's dark recesses, searching for some method of escape. There must be a way. Focus. Just then, out of the corner of her eye, something glimmered. A small window high above, maybe 3 feet wide. It was her only chance, the light pouring from it illuminating mutant, twisted figures closing in on them. "Up there!" she cried, pointing, but the words barely got through as the shadows lunged for them. "Help me boost you." As he crouched, she scrambled on his shoulders, heart racing and palms sweaty as she tried to grab the ledge. Just as she felt the cool grip of the window frame in her fingers, the floor shook violently. Mr. Blake lost his balance, and they both went tumbling back to the ground as an ear-splitting roar shook the gym. The haunting whispers faltered. Silence filled the gym. Until it changed. With every flicker of the emergency lights, the faces swarmed at the edges of her vision, trade-offs of fear twinkling behind their stretched smiles. Each second bled into the next, slowly, as Sarah realized they were the ones truly cornered. Shadows packed tighter around them, and the true nature of their situation, the fate of their empty souls, was slowly unfolding, and amid the encroaching darkness, a piercing realization gripped her, a truth that shattered the remnants of her hope. Mr. Blake. But when she turned, he was gone. The figure from the shadows was where he had just been, a grin curling across its dark, featureless expanse. Their desperate fight for survival had just begun, and now she was utterly alone. What fate awaited Sarah amid the shadows? The silence was deafening, an unseen weight pressing heavy against her chest. Panic shot through Sarah's veins, a torrent of dread flooding her mind as she spun around, searching for any sign of Mr. Blake. The shadows swirled, a murky dance of despair, their whispers curling around her thoughts like ghostly fingers. "You are alone, you cannot hide, Mr. Blake." Her voice cracked, desperation slicing through the eerie quiet. No answer came, only the creeping darkness that continued to pool around her. The air felt charged, electric with unspeakable dread. She was unmoored, a lone ship caught in an endless storm. There was no time to think. She had to move, turning back toward the darkened windows. She reached for the nearest one. It was just a faint glimmer now, the light flickering dangerously. The shadows slithered toward her, whispering, mocking her fear. "You'll never escape, shut up," she screamed, clenching her fists as she stepped back, heart pounding against her ribcage. She had to think. A way out. Anything but this. Her mind raced, and then light. The flicker of hope stabbed through the darkness. In the back corner of the gym, partially hidden behind a stack of collapsed mats, stood the exit sign. Flickering but alive. Sarah zoomed toward it, adrenaline propelling her forward. She could feel the shadows press closer, their hushed voices growing more frantic. The space between her and the door shrank as if the very gym itself loathed her approach. With every step, the whispers grew louder. "You're trapped, it's only a matter of time, surrender." She slammed her palm against the door handle. It didn't budge, the metal cool and unyielding in her sweating grasp. "Open, damn you!" she yelled, rattling it wildly. As she thrashed against the door, she felt a pull at her sleeve. A cold, clammy touch brushed her arm and she whirled around. The creature loomed just behind her, its grotesque form twisted and elongated, tendrils extending like dark vines reaching for her soul. "No!" she shrieked, but the sound was swallowed by the cacophony of whispers. The shadows escalated in tension, almost forming a choir that enveloped her. "Join us, become one with the despair." She fought the urge to collapse under the weight of their voices, the icy tendrils creeping closer. Her gaze darted around, searching for anything she could use. She had to fight back. In one quick motion, she snatched a gym trophy lying on the ground, the metal surface glinting in the dim light. Without thinking, she swung it at the approaching shadows. The impact sent vibrations coursing through her arm, and a piercing scream erupted from the shadows, briefly silencing the whispers. But the sound was like blood in the water, fueling their frenzy. "Foolish girl. You can't defeat us," they taunted, their voices now a piercing cacophony that threatened to drown out her sanity. With newfound resolve, Sarah darted for the door again, slamming her body against it. The sudden thrust knocked it open, and blinding light engulfed her. She stumbled into the unfamiliar hallway, gasping for air as hope flooded back, but it was short-lived. Footsteps echoed behind her, heavy and determined, the shadows spilling through the doorway like a dark wave. They sought her, hungry for the panic she could barely contain. She took off down the hall, mind racing, searching for an end, somewhere to hide, to breathe. But as she ran, a dark laughter reverberated through the air. "You can't run, Sarah, we are everywhere." The hall branched into two paths. To the left, an inviting pool of sunlight filtering from a window, But a flicker of dread warned her of its disingenuous warmth. The right path, darker and more foreboding, whispered promises of safety, but carried its own risk. Where should she go? In her gut, the feeling twisted again, the weight of uncertainty pressing down. If she chose wrong, the shadows would claim her for sure. Time froze as she hesitated, her heart pounding like a drum in her ears. Make a choice, the whispers lingered, swirling, growing impatient. What was she going to do? Sarah's breath came in ragged gasps, the taste of fear sharp on her tongue. The sunlight beckoned from the left, glimmering and warm, but there was something unsettling about it. It felt as if the light had a consciousness of its own, a trap waiting to ensnare her with its often deceptive comfort. The path to the right was dark and murky, a sinister pathway shadowed by uncertainty. Choose. The command echoed louder now, reverberating through her very bones. Her instincts screamed at her. She clenched her fists, her heart racing faster than the pounding rush of her thoughts. The bright path could very well lead to safety, or a false sense of security, while the dark one whispered thoughts of despair and danger. She glanced over her shoulder, the shadows pouring out of the gym, black tendrils slithering toward her like snakes hungry for prey. They whispered cruel promises, weaving through the air with a force that clawed at her sanity. They will catch you, you cannot escape now, she shouted back defiantly. The words felt weak, however, a mere echo swallowed by the encroaching darkness. Go left, hissed a voice from within the shadows, slick and slippery. The light will embrace you. Sarah gritted her teeth. The shadows dancing in the corners of her vision seemed to pulsate with an insatiable hunger. Right or left? She muttered under her breath, paralyzed by indecision. The air crackled with tension as time stretched on. Sweat trickled down her back, her eyes darting back and forth. Suddenly, she heard a new sound, a rumbling that vibrated through the floor. A door slammed somewhere far behind her, resonating like thunder. The shadows paused as if holding their breath, the air thick with anticipation. Then, as if refueled by that singular noise, they surged forward again. Now, the shadows crooned, their hunger spilling over. Sarah made her choice, the right path. She bolted down the corridor, every step echoing her determination. The light faded behind her, swallowed by the encroaching darkness. No turning back now. Hallway after hallway opened up before her, twist after turn, and the uncertainty gnawed at her insides. Panic rose, stinging like ice as she raced onward. The smell of mildew thickened in the air. She caught a glimpse of her reflection in a cracked glass panel, eyes wide, face pale, every ounce of hope dwindling. Oh God, she whimpered, her voice barely a whisper, swallowed by the void. At last, she stumbled into a room at the end of the hallway, an old storage space littered with broken desks and overturned chairs. The darkness flooded in behind her but paused just outside the doorframe, repelled by the remnants of light pooling from a single bare bulb hanging from the ceiling. It flickered fitfully, casting strange shadows on the walls. Hide, a low voice urged from the shadows, teasing her ear. No, she shot back, pressing her back against the wall, fingers searching for something to shield herself. Then she spotted it, an old fire extinguisher lying forgotten on the floor. Not me, she shouted defiantly as she grabbed it. The weight of it felt reassuring in her hands. A loud thud struck the door, a heavy force, shaking the frame violently. It splintered. The whispers returned, louder this time, rising to a fever pitch, urging her to submit. We will find you, we always find you. Tremors coursed through her body, but she pressed the valve of the extinguisher. A cloud of foam sprayed out, casting a wall of white against the dark. She gasped, her eyes widening as the shadows recoiled. But just as quickly, they surged forward again, relentless and hungry. Run! A voice echoed in her head, a final warning, and before she could think, the door slammed wide open, revealing a grotesque face formed from the shadows, its maw twisted into a gaping grin. What now? She thought, feeling the ground drop beneath her. With the exit now behind her, a harsh reality settled in. Darkness engulfed her, no way out in sight. But as she scanned the room frantically, she caught a glimpse of something glimmering in the corner, another door, half hidden by the chaos. Could it lead to freedom? As the shadows lunged again, Sarah had to decide. Take a chance and fight, or let the darkness take her for good. Will she find the way out, or will the shadows claim her? The shadows were closer now, a swirling mass of darkness teeming with intent. Sarah clenched the fire extinguisher like a lifeline, heart pounding as its cold metal pressed against her clammy palm. She could barely breathe. The world around her shrank, the clamor of whispering shadows drowning out her thoughts. "Choose," echoed the haunting command once more, this time tinged with urgency and a mocking tone. There it was, a door. The glimmering hint of hope. She darted toward it, feet slamming against the floor in desperate rhythm. Just as she reached for the handle, the shadows lunged towards her, searching, grasping, spilling over the floor like thick black ink. "Sarah!" The voice came again, pulling her away from the door. It twisted her insides, the fear tangling her thoughts. Another decision needed to be made, but how could she choose when all options felt like death? Panic surged. She spun around as the oppressive darkness enveloped her, suffocation creeping into her mind. But the voice wasn't just in her head. It came from somewhere within the shadows. Turn, the whisper came like a breeze, cool and chilling. "They cannot reach you if you keep moving." Ignoring her instincts was impossible. Yet standing still was equally fatal. Gritting her teeth, Sarah opted to flee, bolting away from the door as fast as her legs could carry her. The wrenching fear propelling her forward, walls blurred past her, dim light flickering overhead. Desperation fueled her determination. But every whimper of the shadows echoed louder, mocking her. "We will find you, you cannot evade forever." She pressed forward, each breath sharp with the bitter taste of dread. The echoes felt like fingers scratching at her mind, their taunts invoking a draining weariness. The path twisted again into a narrow hall, lined with ominous doors. She was trapped. There had to be something, any exit. The shadows were gaining ground, an ink-like tide surging against her. Then she saw it, a door slightly ajar, inviting. She could sense the weight of something protective beyond it. Without hesitating, she shoved it open, rushing inside. It was cramped and dank, filled with the scent of old paper and stale air. The moment she turned to close it, a violent thud rattled the frame, the door threatening to splinter. Shadows pressed against it like a flood threatening to burst through. "Not here, not like this," she gasped, back against the door. Her mind screamed for a plan. Behind her, the room was filled with heaps of forgotten books, their spines cracking, dusty memories of once cherished stories. And then she spotted it, a gargantuan tome on a pedestal in the center of the room. The pages flipped in an unseen wind, revealing jagged illustrations and foreboding text. An ancient warning or a dark invitation? "Read it." The shadows whispered hungrily. "Learn. Submit." But what if reading the book summoned the darkness even more? Would she awaken something worse? The door trembled again, a new howl of rage emanating from the other side. Sarah's heart pounded, each beat echoing louder than the last. She was running out of time. She reached for the book, fingers trembling, but the shadow's sinister laughter crept closer. Her eyes darted, a simple decision looming. Pull the tome toward her and risk everything. Or keep the door closed and brace for the inevitable. With seconds slipping away, she had to make a choice, her safety or the unknown. What if the book had the answers? Would it reveal a way out or unleash a nightmare even worse than before? As she grasped the edge of the tome, prepared to tear it from its place, an icy hand shot through the door, reaching for her. What lay in store beyond that threshold? The truth clawed at her, and the darkness loomed ever closer. The hand that slithered through the door was cold, frigid, like an icy grip of death. Panic hit Sarah like a punch to the gut. She yanked her own hand away, her fingers still trembling on the edge of the tome. Desperation clawed through her mind. The door shuddered again as the shadows pounded against it, a sound like thunder rolling through the room. "Read or be consumed," the shadows sang, their voices a chilling chorus that filled the air with dread. She glanced back at the book, its pages now flipping wildly as if desperate for her attention. Could knowledge really be her salvation? Was there a hidden power waiting to be unearthed? Just a little longer, she whispered to herself, knowing full well that time was a luxury she no longer possessed. She felt the shadows retreat and surge again, struggling to grab hold of her. Summoning every ounce of courage left within her, Sarah thrust herself forward, slamming her palm against the tome's weathered cover. The moment she did, the room spun, darkness swirling into a vortex as the pages whipped around like angry winds. Words gripped her attention, words not meant to be read aloud. Panic swelled. The shadows seemed to quiet, their whispering replaced with an oppressive silence, suffocating and heavy. Sarah could feel it, a binding force creeping into her thoughts, filling her with unease, and yet curiosity gnawed at her spine. She forced herself to focus, eyes scanning a passage that seemed to glow a faint silver. A warning. A ritual perhaps. The words danced with an otherworldly energy. Those who unveil the darkness must offer themselves to it. Only then shall the veil lift. Nothing felt more terrifying than the weight of that statement. The shadows outside roared in anger, as if they heard her reading, and were now aware that she dared defy them. Sarah desperately scanned the illustrations revealing gaping maws and clawed hands that stretched toward the light. Were they trying to warn her or lure her in? Her heart drummed louder, urgency coursing through her veins. Offer yourself. What did it mean? Was she supposed to willingly surrender? The door. It rattled violently behind her, and a crack of light shone through the splintered wood, which bruised her hope. She could feel the icy tension creeping closer, the chilling grasp tugging at her limbs. No, she gasped, shaking her head violently as if that denial could push the shadows away. I want tea. But maybe there was no escaping. She was trapped in this nightmarish cycle. The decision weighed heavy. If she fought for her life, there was a chance she could break free. If she gave in, she would be lost forever. In a last moment of defiance, she slammed her fist against the book, and it let out a haunting shriek. The shadows paused, even the whispers fell silent, as if they were stunned into reverence. Sarah, they intoned, the voice of many weaving into one. Choice. Their hunger flared once more, and she felt their grasp tighten around her throat, drawing her closer to the door. The book pulsed in her hand, a heartbeat matching hers alive with raw determination. Sarah yanked the book from the pedestal, shoving it toward the crack in the door. I'm not offering anything, she screamed, praying it would somehow protect her. Eldritch energy exploded, illuminating the dark corners of the room. An anguished wail erupted from the shadows as they recoiled. But the light radiated from the book, a beacon mingling with the approaching void. It felt like a moment suspended in time, her heartbeat in sync with the unleashed power. Sarah understood in that split second of intense clarity that the shadows didn't just want her. They needed her to concede, to claim her as one of them. But she wouldn't fall. Not today. With a surge of resolve, she closed her eyes, willing herself to transcend the horror and run, to escape the tangible horror that awaited her behind the door. Would the tome grant her the destiny of her choosing or forge her fate with shadows? The shadows lunged, darkness snapping like a coiled spring. What lay in the unknown beyond? True salvation or a new and unspeakable terror? The door groaned, the book pulsed in her hands, and all Sarah could do was brace for the storm about to unleash itself. The fight wasn't over. It was only just beginning. The room trembled as the shadows surged forward in a tidal wave of dark energy. Sarah's heart raced, each beat a desperate plea for survival. She felt the shadows crawling up her legs, their icy tendrils digging into her skin, dragging her toward the door she fought so hard to resist. The book, still grasped tightly in her hands, throbbed with a frantic pulse, almost as if it was aware of her plight. Why won't you let me go? She shouted, her voice echoing in the suffocating silence. They only squeezed tighter, a chorus of whispers in her ears taunting her resolve. You cannot escape us, Sarah. Clenching her jaw, Sarah forced her eyes open. She could hear the metallic clang of the door buckle under the pressure of the shadows. Her world narrowed to the frantic scribbles on the pages of the tome, shimmering whispers of hope amid the looming despair. Give and do it, the voices urged, their desperation clawing at her sanity. But Sarah couldn't afford to surrender. Clenching her fists, she focused on the words that had caught her attention before. What if she could wield the power instead of succumbing to it? Those who unveil the darkness must offer themselves, she muttered under her breath, gripping the book tighter. But what if I offer something else? The shadows faltered mere inches from her. They swirled like a dark vortex, confused momentarily as if her defiance had disrupted their sinister rhythm. Her fingers skimmed over an incantation buried deep within the tome. Banish darkness, she shouted, channeling her fear into a raw primal scream as she thrust the book toward the door. You will not have me. With a blinding flash, the light erupted from the pages, severing the grip of the shadows just long enough to break the illusion of their hold. For a brief moment she felt freedom. The door creaked louder, uncertainty in its timbre. But the shadows weren't done. They howled in fury, retreating only to return like a horde of relentless phantoms, fueled by a new rage. They swarmed around her, a tempest of darkness intent on extinguishing the flickering flame of her spirit. "Keep reading," an inner voice screamed, even as another part of her quaked in terror. The book's words were her lifeline, clinging to sanity amid the chaos. With renewed urgency, Sarah flipped through the pages, frantically searching for another chance, another ritual to set her free. Images of lost souls stared back at her, twisted and haunting, their mouths frozen in cries of agony. "What do you want?" she shouted, desperation giving her courage. "What do you need me to do?" Silence fell as the shadows paused, swirling uncertainly. Then one voice emerged from the cacophony, clear and guttural. "We hunger for your truth, your pain." A sickening chill tightened around her chest. Some part of her knew that revealing too much would invite more danger. But was that the only way to escape? Could she trade her darkest secrets for her life? Tears formed at the edges of her vision, blurring the malevolent designs of the twisted figures outside. "No, I will not betray myself." Each word felt like a shield against their wretched seduction. The moment shattered, the room igniting with chaotic light as both forces collided. The shadows screamed, a bone-chilling sound echoing in her mind. A whirlwind of darkness and light spun around her, reality fraying at the edges. Instinct screamed at her to run, though she had no idea where to go. The room itself felt alive, grasping at her, pulling her toward its haunted heart. "Step inside, Sarah." The shadows howled, the offer tinged with venomous sweetness. Another part of her warned that giving chase would seal her doom, but beneath the chaos lay the unmistakable lure of salvation, and so she did what felt impossible. She stepped forward. But as she crossed the threshold, the room pulsated violently, and a blinding flash consumed her. Then darkness. What lay beyond that threshold? Did she follow the path to freedom, or had she opened the gate to something far worse? A heartbeat echoed in the void, and for the first time Sarah's own fear turned inward. Was the light within her stronger than the shadows she feared? The true test was just beginning. The darkness felt impossibly vast, wrapping around Sarah like a thick fog. She was suspended in time, her thoughts scattered among her swirling fears and memories. With each heartbeat, she could feel the shadows pressing in, clawing at the remnants of her sanity. "Face your fears," a haunting whisper called out from the inky void, echoing around her. She held still, heart racing. What did it mean? Suddenly the darkness shimmered, revealing a faint light. Was it hope? Or another trap? Sarah felt drawn to it. Gathering all her courage, she stepped forward. Each movement felt monumental, as if she were unraveling the very threads of the abyss around her. The light pulsed gently, and as she approached, it transformed into an enormous mirror, its surface rippling like water. She could see her reflection, but it wasn't just her face staring back. It was a tapestry of emotions: pain, fear, sorrow, and resilience. The weight of her unresolved feelings wrapped around her heart, clenching tightly. She had fought so hard to escape this place, yet here they were, memories and insecurities laid bare before her. "Embrace it, only then will you be free." The voice coiled through the air, soothing and insistent. "I can't," she breathed, her voice trembling. "I can't face it." But deep down, a flicker of understanding blossomed. To fight the shadows, she had to confront what they symbolized: her fears, her regrets. With trembling hands, she reached out to touch the mirror. The moment her fingertips grazed the surface, the world exploded into a cacophony of color and sound. The very essence of her past flooded back. Moments of joy, laughter, and even heart-wrenching pain enveloped her. Figures danced across the shimmering glass. Her students, her friends, her grandmother's loving smile. Laughter rang out, warm and genuine, penetrating the veil of shadows surrounding her heart. But the darkness loomed, shifting and curling around the edges of her memory, threatening to pull her back. "You can't escape your truth," it hissed. "Let us in." Sarah felt the weight of despair clawing at her throat. "No," she shouted, her voice breaking through the shadows, unyielding. "These moments don't define me." The shadows recoiled, but the mirror glimmered. Once again she focused, drawing strength from the light within her memories. "I will not fear the truth of my past. I will own it," she declared, her heart swelling with a newfound determination. Suddenly the mirror pulsed brighter, revealing a hidden pathway behind its surface, a doorway woven from hope and determination. The light surged, spilling across the floor like a river. Go. The voice urged now, filled with warmth and encouragement. With one last deep breath, Sarah stepped through the door, eyes closed tightly against the impending dark. She felt a rush of wind buffeting her, carrying her through the shadows and then silence. A bright light enveloped her as she landed, stumbling onto the polished floor of the old gym. The air vibrated with life and familiarity. She opened her eyes to see Chloe standing nearby, relief flooding her face. You made it. The girl rushed toward her, wrapping her in a tight embrace. Chloe, thank God you're safe, Sarah exclaimed, tears streaming down her face, both from relief and the battle she had just won. Behind them, the shadows shifted, but they were no longer menacing. They flickered at the edges, whispers fading like the last breath of a dying storm. The oppressive weight of fear burned away by light her light. Heads turned around the gym as the remaining scattered students emerged from their hiding places, bewilderment replacing the panic. Mr. Blake stood nearby, eyes wide with awe and newfound respect. Sarah, he breathed, the darkness fading from his countenance. You did it. You faced them. You faced yourself. Suddenly, the emergency lights flickered off, replaced by the bright fluorescence overhead. It's over, someone murmured, a collective sigh escaping the lips of students and teachers alike. Yes, Sarah said, catching her breath, empowerment replacing uncertainty. We're safe now. But we need to talk about what happened here. No one should be left in the dark, not ever again. They all nodded, determination setting on their faces. As they moved together toward the exit, slipping back into the daylight beyond, Sarah felt a weight lift from her chest. The scars of fear would always remind her of the battle fought, but she had emerged victorious, and her truth had transformed from chains into stepping stones. The sun shone brightly as they left the haunted halls of Hillcrest behind them. Let us promise to look out for each other from now on, Sarah said, smiling at Chloe and the others. We'll face whatever comes together. In that moment, she knew they were stronger, not just individually but united as a community. With laughter mingling in the air, they walked toward their future, the light guiding their way. Now, cherished viewers, this is where you come in. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel for more heart-pounding stories like this. Smash that like button now if you enjoyed the conclusion. Trust me, every click feeds the algorithm that helps us grow. And flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about what you just witnessed. I want to hear what you think. Finally, don't wait even one more second. Share this video with at least 5 friends who need to grasp the impact of confronting their own fears. Your support means the world.